Hi, my name is Anna and welcome back to my channel. I thought today we could chat about the 5 book purchases that I recently made. All of these books I purchased for mine and my husband's anniversary. I kind of mentioned this, I think, in my last video that I posted. We had decided that for our anniversary this year, instead of going out and getting each other gifts, we ended up just going out and shopping and buying things that we wanted to buy that day, and it actually ended up being really fun. So our first stop was the used bookstore. I ended up purchasing 2 books there. Both of these I did mention in my last video, so these are not new if you've already seen that one. The first one that I picked up was Mad Honey. This one I have been wanting to read for a while. It's been on my TBR for probably a few years. I don't know exactly how long. I'd have to look at my Goodreads, but it has been on there for a while, and I think I only paid like $4 for this. Yeah, I must have paid like $4.50. I actually get like 50% off because I take books to the used bookstore. They give you like a huge discount, and so as long as it's not a new book, it's like 50% off. So I only paid like $4 for this. I think part of the reason I hadn't picked this up previously was because I was a little bit nervous about reading another book by Jodi Picoult, because the last one that I read was My Sister's Keeper. And I remember it being really different from the movie. I believe it was more graphic. It ended differently. And it just like had more language in it that I didn't really love. And so I haven't picked up another book from her since then, and this was years ago that I read that. So I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to buy this, but I do think, just from reading the synopsis, that I think it's probably going to be, hopefully, at least a 4-star, because one of my goals this year is to only buy books that I think are going to be 4 or 5-star. So I believe this follows a mom and a son who are basically starting over. Something happens with her husband, and her son, I believe, is in high school. He falls in love with this girl who sometime later ends up dying, and her son is now being questioned for her death. I think it's like a suspense. I don't know if it's a thriller. I don't think it is. I'm kind of curious if her books end kind of the way, like, if you're reading Kristin Hannah, you can pretty much expect that her books are just going to end sadly. And so I don't know if this author is the same. Again, I only read 1 book from her before, so I really don't know, but I'm kind of expecting it to end sadly for some reason. I'm giving her another try, so we will find out. The next book that I purchased from the used bookstore, I actually bought this new, so I did pay full price for it, but again, it was like $1 less than Amazon or something like that, so it wasn't that bad. But I bought The Housemaid's Secret. So I read the first one last year. This is on my February TBR. I don't know if I'm going to get to it. We are more than halfway through February as it is, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to read this, but if not, it will definitely be a March pick. But yes, I loved The Housemaid, and I'm excited to read this one. I gave The Housemaid a 4, so I'm hoping this will also be a 4 at least. The other books I ended up purchasing from Amazon. We did go to Barnes & Noble, and I have such a hard time buying from Barnes & Noble because the prices are so much higher than Amazon. And right now, it just does not make financial sense for me to pay more for a book that I can just order online and then get, a couple days later. Anyways, this first book that I purchased, I actually recently saw on Goodreads. It randomly came up, I think, as like a book that was suggested for me. It is Theo of Golden. I have heard really good things about this. This kind of sounds like a slower paced book, but a really sweet book. I'm looking forward to getting to this soon. I think it is a several months wait on Libby for both the audio and the ebook. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to purchase it because I do want to read it kind of sooner. And I believe this follows an older man who goes to like a coffee shop or something. Yes, a coffee house, where he sees these portraits that are hanging on the wall in this coffee house. They're all by a local artist. I believe they're all of portraits of people that live in this town. This man individually purchases each of these portraits and takes them to their person, whoever the portrait is of. I'm assuming he like gets their backstories or connects with them in some way. And it just seems like a really sweet and wholesome book. And I'm looking forward to reading this. It has really good reviews on Goodreads. Next up, this one is huge. I was watching a video by somebody recently on BookTube. They said that they absolutely loved this book. I honestly know nothing about it, which is probably weird because I think it's a classic. It is Gone with the Wind, and this is huge book. The font is also very small in this. Look how tiny this font is. It's like 950-ish pages. So when am I going to get to this? I don't know. I was actually trying to find a really fancy copy of it, and they didn't have it. I was actually kind of surprised that Barnes & Noble didn't have one of their like special copies. I forget what it's called, but something like Barnes & Noble has like special copies of like classics and stuff. And so I was kind of hoping that they would have one for this, but they did not. And I looked online. I didn't really see anything that interested me. So I ended up just going with this one. I did actually have to send the first one back because it was completely bent in the corners. I can't even figure out why they would send a book like that, but I returned it and got a new one, and this is in much better shape. I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but I look forward to it eventually. I typically don't do well with classics, but I read the first page and I think this will be okay. So that is on my list for eventually. The last book that I got, this is a nonfiction, and it's one that I have had on my list for a while as well. And I haven't purchased it because I do have a number of nonfiction that I still haven't read. I only usually get through maybe 2 or 3 a year, but I do want to read this one soon. It's shorter, and it is called Gentle and Lowly, The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. I have just been wanting to add some more Christian nonfiction to my list. This was one that I've really been wanting to pick up, and I'm looking forward to getting to this. This might be more toward the end of the year. I think I had said that one of my goals is to read 2 nonfiction this year, but now I'm kind of thinking I may do 1 a quarter. So if that's the case, then this will probably make it in this year. I think I'm like 20%, 25% of the way through The Weight of Glory, and I have about 1 more month left if I want to finish that by the end of this first quarter. And if I do that, I think I can probably get this one in this year, and I would love to do that if I can. So those are the 5 books that I have recently purchased. I've been trying not to purchase too many books. Another one of my goals this year was to read half of my physical TBR, and because I just added more books to it, I'm trying to figure out if I need to up that number or if I just keep it at half of what I started the year with. I'm still thinking about that one, and I'm not quite sure what to do. If you have any advice for that, please let me know. And if you have read any of these and have a recommendation for where to start, please let me know. But this was a really fun mini book haul. I don't often buy a lot of books at one time, and so buying 5 books at once was kind of a lot for me, but it was fun being able to do that. And I know that my husband enjoyed being able to go out and buy a couple things that he liked too. So I think we may end up doing this for our anniversary next year. I don't know, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to have added these 5 books to my physical TBR. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.